insurance requirement for the use of fiata bill of lading other than the user having insurance in place to cover their operational liabilities with first-class insurance company. We advise that, as I told you, one of the principles of contract is that the parties must be what? Capable of contracting. So you should look for a first-class insurance company and an insurance company that will be able to compensate you for losses that have been covered, okay, and premiums paid for. So the fiata bill of lading's liability is not different from the normal, liabilities on using a normal bill of lading. So we also have a covering when you are part of the protection and indemnity clubs. You also have an insurers offering cover in local markets like the TT Club and etc. We also have liability insurance for industries. That talks about all risk. It covers all risk. When we get to those places, we will throw more light on it. So the fiata bill of lading is known to be a negotiable marine ocean bill of lading, subject to completion according to the International Chamber of Commerce rules. It can also serve as a forwarder's house bill with a suitable endorsement or as a multimodal transport document. The fiata bill of lading is used worldwide under the same set of conditions, offering the customer a substantial degree of protection. The liability of the freight forwarder under the terms of the fiata bill of lading is based on the UNCTAD and International Chamber of Commerce rules for multimodal transport document. When you want more details on this, you can actually look out for all insurance liabilities and limitations are listed in when you look at the standard trading conditions. Okay, give us a copy. You can request for it and it will be sent to you. All those liabilities for using the fiata bill of lading are spelled out. So like I said, there is no specific insurance requirement for using the fiata bill of lading other than the user having arranged appropriate insurance with first-class insurance company to cover their liability. A forwarder issuing fiata bill of lading must ensure that all insurance agreements or arrangements related to these liabilities have been clarified to the client. Now we have something called the protection and indemnity clause. The protection and indemnity clause provide cover for ship owners' liability. You know, when you go into history, during the mid-19th century, ship owners found themselves with liabilities which their traditional hull underwriters, Lloyds, were not able or no, they were not willing to cover. In order to solve the problem of in order to solve this problem, groups of owners, that's ship owners, formed themselves into mutual association and agreed to share each other's claim. The protection and indemnity clubs all operate on mutual or non-profit basis, aiming at calling up only sufficient money each year to meet costs, expenses, and claims for that year. There are no shareholders and and the ship owners members of the association insure each other. What this means is that there was a time that ship owners had their liabilities, certain liabilities, which their insurers were not prepared to cover. Like I told you, it's not every risk that your insurers are willing to cover. So what they did was that since the insurers were not prepared to take up those covers, they came together as ship owners and they formed a mutual association and agreed that whenever a member of the association, is in a problem, where of damage or whatever, then the association members will come together and share the claim. Okay, they will give you something to actually ease your problem for you. Now, they didn't do this on profit basis. It was operated to give mutual assistance to themselves. So they only needed some, whenever they met each year, there are only few monies that to cost claims and some expenses for that year was their concern. So the Protection and Indemnity Club is actually meant or designed for only ship owners, okay? Only ship owners. And it covers various risks, okay, by the association members. In the marine insurance, the type of risks of concern usually include the risk of general nature, like war risk, freight and demurrage risk, and through transit risk. Risks of general nature includes such as damage or compensation for loss of life, personal injury, illness, expense incurred under statute or collective or special agreement with respect to loss of life, personal injuries or illness. So some of these things were what was covered under the P&I Club, association's risk. Then some of the examples are what you are seeing there: general average liability for loss of shortage of property, collision liability, distress, and so on and so forth. All these things were under what? Apart from the general risk, like war and all that other things, this one that has also been outlined here were also covered by the P&I Club. However, some risks were not covered, and they were defined in the laws. Okay, when you talk about the laws, you are talking about the Marine Insurance Act. And then also, they are also defined in the institute clauses. When we talk about institute clause, we have the institute clause A, clause B, clause C. Okay, so the institute clauses contain a number of clauses exempting insurance from liability where the loss or damage of the subject matter insured arises from certain causes. So when you look at the institute clauses, it has carefully actually defined what has been covered and what has not been covered. And also, apart from the law, the institute clauses, when you take your insurance policy itself, sometimes exemptions are found expressly stated in that policy. Okay, so like I mentioned, when you look at the marine law, some of the exemptions include losses not proximately caused by the peril against. So that's talking about causal proximate, causal proxima. And then losses caused by willful misconduct of the assured. So that one is talking about mitigation of loss. Losses caused by delays, okay? And then losses by ordinary wear and tear. And then losses caused by inherent vices and other losses like those caused by what? Vermin, like predators and all that. The institute clauses are generally attached to the policy and contain a number of clauses exempting insurers from liability where the loss or damage of the subject matter insured arises from certain clauses. Exemptions are what has been mentioned there. You can see that institute law, clause 1, A, clause B, and clause C. They are slightly different. So care must be taken. The general exclusion clause mentioned above refers to loss as a result of what? Willful misconduct, insufficient and unsuitable parking or preparation of some insured, inherent vices or nature of the sum inured, delays, even though the delay caused by risk insured against, except expenses payable as a result of general average and salvage. We talk about insolvency, Okay, insolvency, all these things are excluded. The use of weapons of war, weapon of war, employing atomic or nuclear fission or fusion or other like reaction or radioactive force or matter. All these things are excluded. Now, apart from the Theatre Bill of Lading and then the P&I Clubs, another source of liability can also be seen from the brokers offering cover in the local market. We have a certain club called the True Transport Club. Okay, though the P&I Club insure the largest tonnage of ocean traffic, not all risk or not all liability risk in cargo transport are insurable, like I mentioned.